They laughed when the toast turned toward me, and I felt the room choose sides. My name is Maeve Hartley, and I was standing in a rented ballroom with mirrored pillars and paper-white roses that smelled of nothing. It was my sister Lila's engagement party, the kind of night where people practice the way they lift their glasses. I wore the only black dress I owned, the one I bought after my last job interview 2 years ago, when I still believed good answers could change a mind. Lila looked like a commercial for new beginnings, soft hair tucked behind one ear, her fiancé Felix buttoned into navy confidence. Our mother floated, approving of him the way she used to look at catalog kitchens. I brought a bottle of Prosecco and a wrapped book about timing plants to the moon, and I stood near the ficus because it never asks what you do. Around me, cousins traded titles like handshakes. Product manager, senior associate, creative director, director of something no one could explain. When they asked about me, I gave my honest answer, measured as a teaspoon. Freelance operations, I said, and I run a very small logistics studio for crafters. I help artisans ship their goods on time, organize fulfillment, make quiet systems that make loud holidays possible. It is ordinary, and it is mine. Felix's best man, whom I had met 6 minutes earlier, tapped his champagne flute with a room temperature fork. A toast, he announced, already half smiling. To Lila and Felix, who show us what ambition looks like. He had a way of glancing while speaking, a little stage light in his eyes. And to family, he added, for inspiring us. Lila, remember when you tutored your sister in econ because she kept thinking profits were a feeling? Laughter softened into the carpet. Kidding, he said, but he wasn't. Lila's lips parted in a polite apology that never became words. Our mother laughed with 2 fingers over her mouth, as if she could control the sound once it left. An aunt chimed in with a warm memory about me not understanding compounding interest in 10th grade. You said it felt like cheating, she recalled, as if nostalgia were permission. I smiled because smiling is the first language we are taught. The second is silence. People asked harmless questions with sharpened edges. Was my business a hobby? Did I have employees? Was it scalable? Scalable like a ladder or like a rumor? I said gently. That earned me a pair of pitying eyebrows. Someone suggested I move back home to save money. No shame in it, he said, which is what people say when they cannot imagine your pride. The planner approached with a clipboard and a thin-lipped smile that said she knew every secret this room had to offer. She asked Lila to confirm the dessert count. Lila looked at Felix, who looked at our mother, who excused herself to the restroom. I saw the brief panic cross my sister's face, an accounting line that had not been reconciled. I recognized it because I live inside spreadsheets. Families teach you how not to look at things, but work teaches you how to. That dress is brave, someone whispered near my ear. I let the comment fall. The violinist tuned a thin string of air. The chandelier hummed. I remembered, with a sudden clarity, the morning I told my family I would not go back to the firm that measured my days in 15-minute increments. My father had said, "You will come running back when reality catches you." He is gone now, not from the world, but from this room, somewhere in Florida where it is always afternoon. He believed survival was loud. The best man raised his glass again, aiming for another laugh. Let's all toast to finding what we're good at, he said. And to helping those still figuring it out. His glance landed, quick and bright, like a coin tossed to a busker who didn't ask. I lifted my glass and felt my hand steady itself. There is a moment when heat cools into shape, when humiliation stops boiling and becomes glass. In that moment I noticed the planner's problem, the way she shaded an amount on her form, the way Felix pretended not to see. A current tugged at me, small but insistent. I did not argue. I did not correct anyone's memory. I looked at my sister, at the girl who once split her sandwich with me on a heat-struck bleacher, and I felt something settle, quiet and precise. It was not anger. It was the first spark of inventory. The party swelled into the safe noise of events, a music that covers small cruelties. People formed circles that opened and closed like gills. Lila drifted from group to group, wearing the smile women learn to pin on when the world expects light. Felix kept a casual hand on her back, proprietary, like he was both guiding and presenting her. There were white napkins folded like questions. I kept to the edges, where the servers moved, studying how the room ran. That is my habit, and my trade. I notice broken links, late arrivals, the place where a schedule sags. I saw the planner redirect a baker who had delivered the wrong pastry stands. I saw the bartender measure pours when he recognized a certain aggressive cheerfulness in a guest. I saw that the dessert invoice had been bumped to due by end of day, and that no one wanted to talk about it. Cousin Hannah, who loved me when we were 9, glanced at my shoes and smiled with the kind sadness reserved for people who are trying. "How's the little business?" she asked. The word little did not hurt. What hurt was the fondness on it, like a pat on the head. "Steady," I said. "We just onboarded 2 jewelry cooperatives and a toy maker. Q4 is busy for everyone," she finished, already turning toward a story about her firm's offsite in Aspen. The story had powder and a hot tub in it. I nodded and learned the names of people I would never meet. I moved to the balcony for air. The city was a chandelier that someone had dimmed. Cars stitched the avenue in purposeful lines. I leaned on the stone rail and watched my breath make small treaties with the cold. The door opened behind me. "Maeve," Lila said, resting her elbows next to mine. Her ring caught the light and sent it back in neat angles. "I'm sorry about the jokes. You know how people get." She peered up into my face like a doctor checking a pupil. "You okay?" "I'm fine," I said. "It's your night." She hesitated. "You always say that." What should I say instead? My words were soft, and they surprised me by how steady they were. "You could tell me when something stings," she said. "You could tell me when you need help." She smiled without showing teeth. "Remember the time you wrote that poem about interest rates? Dad framed it as a warning." She tried to laugh, and it tumbled out wrong. "I remember," I said. "I was 16, and I thought money should have manners." She pressed her lips together and looked toward the ballroom. "Felix and we're handling most of it, but there's a little shuffle with the cake vendor. Mom swore she sent a deposit, but she sent it to the florist by mistake. It will resolve. It always does." The way she said always suggested a ledger filled by other people. I thought about my studio apartment, the second-hand desk with a clean top, the wall calendar with deadlines marked in pencil because every plan deserves an eraser. I thought about the nights I had stayed up reconciling client inventories, the mornings I carried boxes down 3 flights because an elevator had opinions. I thought of the months I did not eat out so I could pay contractors before they asked. "Do you ever feel," I asked, surprising us both, "like a room has already decided who you are before you enter?" "Every day," she said, so quickly that I had to look at her. "I just learned to enter anyway." Inside, the best man tried a third toast. My mother laughed in the right place. Felix examined his cuff link as if it held a code. A server bumped a table, and a fork rang out, thin and honest. "I have been excluded before. It teaches you how to carry your center with both hands." In college, I learned to sit in the front row when I knew less, so the distance to the board could not grow. At the firm, I learned the difference between being tolerated and being trusted. When I left, I learned how to invoice without apologizing for the work behind the numbers. At the edge of that cold balcony, I understood something simple. Their laughter did not reduce me. It did not enlarge them. It only pointed at the line we had drawn years ago, and how we kept walking on either side like it was a river we respected. I'm happy for you, I said, meaning it. And I want tonight to be clean. Lila studied me. What does that mean? It means if something falls, I will pick it up, I said. But I'll do it my way. She touched my knuckles with hers, a childhood password. Okay, she said. My way scares me less when you say it. As she left, the planner appeared again, her smile tightened by math. I watched her glide toward Felix and say the quiet number that darkened his eyes. He patted his pockets like a man searching for a map. My humiliation cooled into clarity. I decided, without heat, who I would be in this room. I would not be a lesson or a target. I would be a system that works. I would be the person who keeps the floor from tipping. I went back inside and found a chair where I could see the bar, the door, and the cake. 3 years earlier, I sat at a bare kitchen table with a plant that refused to die. A box fan clicked with the rhythm of a cheap clock. I was choosing between a late rent fee and paying a contractor on the date I had promised. I chose the contractor and wrote my landlord a letter with numbers and a plan. Plans are the only apology I trust. That same week, I lost my last firm client. They wanted a team of 5 for the price of 1, and they wanted the answers before they asked the questions. I put on my coat and walked until the air made sense. Then I opened a fresh document and wrote the name of a business that could not afford to lie, Narrow Bridge Logistics. I liked the way it sounded like a crossing you could make on foot. The discovery did not arrive as a miracle. It came piece by piece, like accurate mail. Candlemakers whispered to knitters. Jewelers whispered to potters. I learned that people who make things need 2 kinds of love, patience and tracking numbers. I built templates, clear and dull as tap water. I hired Ria for 8 hours a week, then 12, then 20. She had a laugh like a jump rope, fast and rhythmic, and she understood that order is a form of care. One winter morning, I calculated costs until noon and then attended a webinar after lunch about small business banking. I took notes like my life depended on them, because it did. The bank manager, a measured woman named Nora Chin, spoke in the exact sentences I worship. Cash flow is a pulse, she said. Optimize for reliability before growth. At the end, I sent a question no one else asked. What is the smallest reserve that still builds trust? She wrote back with her calendar, then met me on a Wednesday without judging my coat. She helped me choose an account that did not erode my balance with tiny teeth. She explained wires and holds like she was teaching me to carry a fragile bowl. She told me to photograph my whiteboard once a week and save those photos in a folder named Heartbeat. I did it, and over time, a slow movie formed of promises kept. We watched the account grow, then stutter, then steady, then rise. I paid myself last and on purpose. The first time I paid myself on time, I cried into a folded towel because I did not want to wake the neighbor's baby. It looked like weakness, and felt like proof. When Ria suggested we move from the neighborhood credit union to a business account with tools we had earned, I hesitated. I don't want to look like I'm pretending, I said. You're not pretending, she said. You're preparing. She pushed a mug toward me. It said, in cheap gold, keep going. Last month, a cooperative in Portland asked for a seasonal package that tripled their capacity. It was the kind of contract that makes you sit down carefully. I built the model, checked it, and sent it anyway. They accepted. The deposit was due the week after Lila's party. The wire would hit the day before. I did not tell my family. Not because I wanted a secret, but because I wanted quiet. When you tend a fire in wind, you learn cupped hands. The day before the party, I opened the app and watched a new figure appear. It startled me, not because it was large, but because it was clean. The inflow was labeled the way I had labeled everything: date, client, channel, note. The balance that followed was a number I had once treated like a fiction. It was not power. It was air. I screenshotted it for the heartbeat folder, then locked my phone and placed it face down. Ria texted a line of balloons, then wrote, "On time, on plan. Proud of you." Back in the ballroom, I saw the planner again approach Lila and Felix. I moved toward them like a person goes to close a window before rain. "Is something wrong?" I asked, keeping my voice low, an offering not a challenge. The planner cleared her throat. "Only a timing issue," she said. "The bakery requires the remaining balance before delivery. It is standard. We expected the bank transfer this afternoon." Felix's jaw flexed. "It's a minor hold," he said. "It will clear tomorrow." His smile aimed to reassure, but the planner's eyes had the sharpness of a person who has been told tomorrow 1,000 times. A part of me wanted to step back. This was not my mess. Another part watched my sister's shoulders lift and lock, the way a person braces before a wave. I felt a small, simple door open inside me. "Nora," I typed under the table, "are you still at your desk?" A minute later, my phone buzzed. "Yes. I can make something happen if it's clean." "Is there a way," I wrote back, "to issue a cashier's check tonight or to pay a vendor directly, if I'm presentable and patient?" She replied with a sentence that made me breathe easier. "For you, if you can be here in 20 minutes, I will wait. Bring ID. Bring purpose." I looked at Lila, at the planner, at Felix. "Give me the amount," I said, my voice even. "And the bakery's name." "Maeve," Lila began. "No, we." I held her gaze. "It's not charity," I said. "It's logistics. That word is my small shield." The planner whispered the number. It was not small. It was also not impossible. I nodded and sent the details to Nora. Ria texted before I could move. "Need me?" I sent her a thumbs up and the location. The ally arrives when the plan is ready. I took my coat, and for the first time that night, I felt tall. The bank branch near the venue glowed like a polite aquarium. The city had turned its collar up against the wind. Inside, Nora stood by a printer with her sleeves rolled and her hair pinned with exactitude. She greeted me as if I had just solved a small theorem. "You made it," she said. "Thank you for waiting," I replied. "I need to pay a bakery tonight. A wedding vendor with a strict policy." "That is my favorite kind of policy," she said. "Clear." Her fingers moved over the keyboard with the tenderness of an archivist. "We can issue a cashier's check or execute an instant ACH push if the bakery accepts it. With an attachment and memo your planner can show." "Let's do both," I said. Redundancy makes sleep. While the printer hummed, I opened my phone. The bank app bloomed with its quiet palette. I authenticated, and the numbers met me with their cool certainty. The large deposit sat there like a calm animal. I did not feel rich. I felt on time. Nora slid the check across the counter in a firm envelope and sent the ACH. "You built this," she said, gesturing toward the app. "You did it slowly, which is the fastest way that lasts." Ria arrived at the door, cheeks flushed, hair in a working ponytail. "I drafted the vendor email," she said, holding out her phone. Subject line, "Payment confirmed, delivery authorized." Simple, present, no adjectives. "Perfect," I said. We shared a brief smile, the kind you reserve for people who know the weight of your days. Back at the ballroom, the lights had softened into a kind of forgiveness. Lila stood near the cake table, the planner hovering, Felix pretending to enjoy a joke he had not heard. I walked straight to the planner and handed her the envelope and the confirmation email on my screen. "Paid," I said. "You will receive both instruments." She scanned, then exhaled a breath I recognized as the sound of a problem ending. "Thank you," she said, voice low. "We're back on schedule." Felix noticed us. "What is this?" he asked. The tone tried for casual and landed on wary. "Payment for your vendor," the planner said, professional and unafraid. "We are clear." Felix's mouth opened, then closed. "We had it handled," he said finally. "Now it is handled," I replied. My voice was calm enough to set a glass on. The best man drifted over, interest sharpening his grin. "Well, that's generous," he said. "From the logistics hobby." He looked at my phone as if it were a prop. I turned the screen toward him with the same courtesy I would offer a clerk. The bank app glowed between us, a small, undeniable square of truth. The balance was not a boast, it was a ledger line. The incoming wire, the operating reserve, the note that read, in my own consistent style, Portland Cooperative, S1 deposit received. The room's noise shifted, a felt change in pressure, like before rain. He blinked. People notice numbers even if they pretend they do not. He coughed a laugh. "Savings," he said, as if testing a word. "Or debt?" "Working capital," I said. "And a reserve for slow quarters." I did not raise my voice. I did not add a flourish. I let the facts sit. An uncle leaned in, drawn by the gravity of a screen. "Is that?" he began, and stopped when the planner, efficient as weather, said, "The bakery has acknowledged receipt." Her phone pinged neatly, a bell for the faithful. "Delivery in 30 minutes. Lila's eyes shone, and not from the lights. She looked at the app, then at me. "Maeve," she said, and stopped, as if the word itself were a long hallway. My mother approached, lips arranged for diplomacy. "You didn't need to embarrass Felix," she murmured. It was a reflex, the old pattern reaching for its dance. "No one is embarrassed," I said. "Cake is coming. That is all." I kept the phone steady in my palm, then clicked the screen off and slid it away. The gesture felt like closing a book. The best man opened his mouth again, hunting for one more joke. "Well, I guess profits are a feeling after all," he said, weaker now. "Profits are discipline," I replied. "Feelings are free." I met his eyes the way you meet a mirror in a dark hallway, without flinching. Silence gathered for a beat, not hostile, simply new. It was the stillness after a machine stops and you realize how loud it had been. The planner moved to reset her schedule with decisive taps. A server adjusted the champagne tower, shoulders lowering. Felix nodded, an acknowledgement not of defeat but of relief. "Thank you," he said, the word landing cleanly. "I should have told you sooner about the hold." "You didn't owe me that," I said. "You owed Lila clarity." He took that in and did not deflect. "You're right," he said. Across the room, the violinist slid into a melody whose edges you could trust. Conversations resumed, different now, careful not to wobble the table. Someone asked me where I learned to manage moving parts with no visible strain. "Late buses," I said. "And a job that wanted me to apologize for breathing." The cake arrived with precise roses and a flourish that felt earned. Lila placed her hand over mine. "Stay near me," she whispered. "Not because I need you, but because I want you in the photos where I remember feeling safe." "Okay," I said. We took the photo. My phone rested in my clutch, the proof folded into quiet. Justice had arrived without trumpets, and the room, for once, did not argue. Morning came like a clean page. The light in my apartment crossed the floor slowly, as if it had learned to be gentle. I brewed coffee and watered the plant that still refused to die. It had grown sideways toward the window, stubborn in its seeking. I turned the pot so it could learn balance. Ria sent me a picture of the bakery's invoice stamped paid, then a photo of a perfectly sliced cake. The roses held, she wrote. I thanked her, then scheduled her a bonus with a memo that said, in gratitude for the invisible work. A message from Nora waited too. Proud of your operational poise, it read. Also, your reserve remains healthy. Do nothing flashy. I smiled at my screen. I never do, I replied, and meant it. At 9, I put on my coat and walked 2 blocks to the community garden plot I rent for $50 a year. October had thinned the beds into declarative statements. Kale holds. Basil quits. Marigolds persevere out of pure personality. I kneaded the soil with my hands and tucked garlic under the surface, 6 inches deep, points up, a little army waiting for spring. Planting things you cannot see through winter is an act of calm defiance. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Lila. I wiped my hands on my coat and answered. Are you busy? She asked. Only with dirt, I said. Good, she said, her voice lighter than last night. I wanted to say thank you. Not for the money. For the clean rescue. I don't rescue, I said. I design exits. You designed one for me, she replied. And you held the door without making me look small. She inhaled. I let them joke at you. I let it happen because stopping it would have wrinkled my night. I know, I said. It sounded kinder than I felt and true. I'm sorry, she said. And I'm going to fix that. Not with a speech, but with choices. She paused. Will you help me build a budget we both understand? I don't want my marriage to be a closed room. Yes, I said. I'll bring plain words and a pencil. We met that afternoon at her kitchen table. Felix joined, shoulders dropped, hands open. I set up a simple sheet with columns like doors, incoming, fixed, variable, reserve. I taught them my favorite rule, if we know the truth, we are less afraid of it. We wrote down numbers that did not lie. No one raised their voice. When we finished, the sun had moved from one chair to another. It looked like an ordinary miracle. My mother texted, a message that did not quite say what it meant. I'm proud of both my girls, it read. Then, I didn't know. I typed back, you do now. I added a heart because old languages are hard to unlearn. That week, I signed the lease on a modest studio space with windows that faced east. I bought 2 sturdy tables and a label printer that did not jam unless provoked. I taped a note to the wall where only I would see it. It said, keep this quiet and true. It said, remember the girl who thought money should have manners. Teach it some. On Saturday, I walked to the farmer's market with a canvas tote and a restful mind. I bought apples that snapped, eggs with the gravity of small moons, and a bunch of eucalyptus that made the air taste clean. On the way home, I passed a bridal shop. A woman stood in the window wearing a dress that made her look like a sentence that had finally found its verb. I wished her every boring happiness. At my desk, I opened the heartbeat folder and scrolled through months of screenshots. Numbers rose and fell like breath. Interspersed were photos of lists, labels, a shipping wall built by my hands and Ria's patience. I added last night's bank confirmation, cropped tight to the essentials, and renamed it with the date and the smallest possible triumph, bakery paid, schedule restored. Quiet revenge never felt like a blade to me. It felt like a room I built with a level and a pencil, then invited people into. Last night, when they laughed, I understood that I do not need their approval to keep the floor even. I only need my tools. Sometimes I think of my father in his forever afternoon, counting boats on a channel, convinced the loudest engine always wins. If he called, I would tell him about garlic and ledgers. I would tell him how steady work makes a life as tender as a cake that arrives on time. The next time a room chooses sides, I will enter anyway. I will bring my lists and my breath. I will stand near the ficus, because it knows how to survive in corners, and I will take the measure of what needs doing. If someone aims a joke like a dart, I will let it miss. If someone needs a system, I will build one in the open. In the late light, I sliced an apple and sat on the floor with my back to the window. The city murmured, faithful and far. My hands smelled like soil and eucalyptus and a little like printer ink. I opened my notebook and wrote one true line: I am not the joke. I am the schedule. If this story touched you, share your thoughts below. And subscribe for more stories of quiet revenge.